Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Tarot Masters. My name is Marcy, and tonight's guest is Ellen Parker. She and I have been friends for a while, and she's been reading tarot for a number of years. And so today we're going to find out about her story, her history, and what she thinks makes a master. So hello, Ellen. Thank you for
Hi,
thank you so
good to
much.
be with you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. So I know you and I had this conversation a while back. I think we were at Outback when we were talking about tarot, and I asked you how you got started with tarot. But go ahead and tell your story for everybody as to how you started reading tarot and how you fell into it, and start us off that way.
Well, many years ago, I had a friend who told me about someone in our area who was a palm reader. And she and I went together to have an appointment to have our palms read. And I enjoyed that. And later on, this same woman told me, well, you know, Sandy also reads tarot cards. And I'd never heard of that before. This was quite a few years ago. And I said, well, what is tarot cards? And she said, oh, they're cards that she uses to kind of tell your fortune. So I was in a situation in my personal life where I was going to be making a pretty big decision about my marriage then. So I thought, well, I think I'll make an appointment and go and see what she has to say about that. So I made an appointment and I went up there, and the first card that she laid down was the 10 of Cups, which is the family card, the couple. And then the next card she laid down was the Death card that went across that. And I knew instantly what that meant without ever having seen the cards before. Most people don't. They just, I don't know how to describe it. When I've told people that, they're like, so what did that mean? I said, well, I just knew that this was what was going to happen. And so she laid out the rest of the cards in a Celtic cross spread. And then she looked at the first two cards and she was very hesitant about what to say. And she said, well, with these first two cards, this is the death of a relationship between a man and a woman. And I said, I know, it's my marriage and I'm going to get divorced. And she said, oh, yes, you are. And I'm so glad you knew that, because I didn't know how I was going to tell you, you know, if you weren't aware of it. And this brings up something very interesting. And it's when you're reading for someone, I don't anyway, ever tell them what to do. You know, I talk to them about the meaning of the cards that are before us, and then the decision that they make on those is up to them. And I feel that's very important because we have free will. There are some people who will say, well, you should do this or you need to do that. And that's something that I've stayed away from. So anyway, I enjoyed the tarot experience so much. And then fairly shortly after that, she passed away. And I'm like, well, that's too bad. What am I going to do? And I thought, well, maybe I could learn how to do this myself. So it wasn't right away. I got divorced and life moved on. And I found myself drawn to Victor's psychic fairs. I read at some of those too for a while. And there was a man there that was friends with Victor, Randy Bruner, and he announced that he was going to teach some tarot classes. He was a very good reader. And so I signed up. And I actually took his class 2 times, so I had a double dose, but that's how I got started. And I just love it. And it seemed to, when you first start out, as with anything else, the main thing is to develop confidence. And the confidence comes from practice, practice, practice. So anyway, that's how I got started.
Do you have a favorite deck, or because I know some readers who just have one deck and they've had that for years and they're not interested in any others. And then there are those, such as myself. I have a little bit of deck habit.
Well, a lot of people do, and that's something I've never developed. I read from the Rider-Waite. I think I have a variation of it. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the Rider-Waite deck. And the reason that I like that deck is because the cards, the pictures on the cards are very evocative of what the meaning of the card is. So most people are not tarot readers, and so I appreciate them being able to look at a card when you can explain the symbolism in it and they can see the symbolism. And then I also have a Halloween deck that I use around Halloween time that's very, very fun. And I'll pull out one of the cards so you can see that.
Okay.
It's got the little cats on it and the orange and black. It's very fun. So those are really the only 2 decks that I work with. I just don't feel the need to have a lot of decks. Nothing wrong with people who do, but I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a habit. But I guess
Well, they're beautiful. There's so many, many wonderful choices. And different sizes. And this is a little tiny deck. Now, this is not a tarot deck. This is angel cards, but you can get tarot cards that size to carry in your purse.
One of my favorites is the Everyday Tarot.
Oh, very nice.
These are just beautiful cards, and I like them because they're not only small, I have small hands, but the quality of the card is really nice. They're really nice cardstock.
Oh, yes, those are very nice.
They're just very simple, and they're simple to read. So yeah, this is one of my go-tos.
I'll have to look that up.
And, yeah, they're beautiful. And then, you know, some decks, I get them purely for the aesthetic, and I know I won't be able to read them because they're just either they're too noisy, or they're too much of a novelty, or too much something. They're just not workable cards, but I like them anyway.
There you go. It's aesthetically pleasing to you.
This deck is from the Penny Dreadful deck.
Oh, wow, that looks kind of spooky.
It's a little spooky. It's but Penny Dreadful was a show on Showtime, and so they had witches there, and of course tarot deck here is based on that. But just like I said, you know, they're just a little too much of a novelty.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can still read them, but
yeah.
So this is really more of a collector's item. But anyway, so back to you. When you get ready to read for somebody, do you have any kind of ritual that you do, or kind of get yourself centered, or kind of pop down and start reading?
Well, the only thing that I do when I open my cards to read for the first time, whether it's for an individual client or if I'm reading at a psychic fair. When I opened my deck that day, I shuffled the cards 7 times. And to me, 7 is a spiritual number. And my guides told me to do that when I started reading. You know, I said, well, what should I do? Some people have a prayer, there's all just personal things that when you kind of gives you the feeling like I'm in the zone or I'm ready to start reading. I also have a very nice crystal that I got in Sedona, Arizona many years ago. And it's kind of my guardian crystal. And when my deck is closed, sitting on my table, this crystal sits on top of it as a way of guarding the deck. I just see that's sitting there. And I've never, even when I've left my table and gone off somewhere else, nobody's ever touched my cards. So that's a good feeling to know that.
I know you have the Renaissance Fair, and that's probably kind of a marathon of readings. So how do you take care of yourself during that time period? And how long is the Renaissance Fair? Is it?
Well, it goes for a number of weeks. It's kind of in a dead zone right now. But I really don't get drained. I know people have said, oh, don't you get tired? I'm like, no, just something that I do. And I just get in the zone and go for it. And I'm very fortunate that way, I guess. But the other thing that is kind of a personal choice is what spread you use for people. A lot of people use the Celtic cross. That's very common. And I like to use what I call the magic square. And I pick a card that's called the significator first. And the way I do that, if I'm reading for a woman, I go through the deck, and the first queen that I come to is the person's significator. And very often that is the queen that represents that person's astrological sign element. It's very interesting. And I do, for a gentleman, I do a king, and for a younger person, a young man, it would be the knight, and so forth. So things don't happen by chance. You know, you get that right queen, or sometimes if I'm struck by the person's spiritual quality I might pick up on, I might go for the high priestess as their significator, and that's the middle card. And we talk about that card and how it relates to them and the path that they're on right now, whether it represents their astrological sign or some other attribute that they may have. And then I lay the rest of the cards around them in to make a square 3 by 3. So I like doing that. That gives you a number of cards to give a good reading. And then in our mediumship group, of which we're a part, we designed a spread ourselves, and it's in the form of a person.
Mm.
So that's going to be kind of cool. The first card is the head, and then the second card is the throat, how you communicate, and the third part of the body is your heart and how you're feeling, and the fourth part is your gut. And then the hands, what you're going to be doing, the action that you're taking, and then the 2 feet as to kind of the steps ahead, what to do next, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
So there's lots of different ways to get the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I created a spread myself, And I don't know why I never really took to the Celtic cross. I've seen a lot of readers use it, and it just provides a lot of information. But
Mhm.
I don't know if it's because they're lazy or I can remember the side cards what they mean. The cross itself I remember, but just the other cards that go up the side, I can never remember what they mean going up. So my spread that I usually use is one on top, then five, which tell the story, and then the bottom, which is the outcome. And
Very
that
nice.
seems to tell me a pretty nice story. I have a lot of success with that. So yeah, I just love how with tarot, it's so individual. And
Right.
there's, there's a million and one ways to do something. And it's all individual. It's all what you feel in the moment. It's one of the really great things I love about it. So since we're the Tarot Master Studio, what do you tell new tarot readers as they get started?
Well, the first thing is you have to have the desire, the interest to find out about the cards, and then just start experimenting with them and do little mini readings for yourself or your friends, whatever. The idea is to build up your confidence. When I first started, the first time I did a psychic fair, I went out of town. And I'm not going to read in Cincinnati. Somebody might see me again or something. So I went up a little bit north, not into Dayton, but in that area. And I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I did what I needed to do. I never really got any feedback from that, but I did have the experience of doing readings and interacting with people and just having fun with it. And then I took a personal growth program in Iowa, and they had a little fundraiser at the end of one of the sessions. So I said, oh, I'll read tarot cards and donate the money to the group. So I did that. And that's when the next month when I went back there, people went, oh, you told me this and that happened. And somebody else would say, and then I did what we were talking about. And this, and I got a lot of very, very positive feedback. So that gave me confidence that, yes, this is something I can do. And I don't, I know somebody who, when she's doing a reading, she says, does that make sense to you? Does that make sense? Oh, okay, good. Well, I thought it did. And to me, that just shows a lack of confidence. Like I'm doing the reading. I'm not saying I've never made a mistake or, that's not true at all. But the way I look at it is I'm the one doing the reading, and this is what I see. This is what how I'm telling you this. And the other day I ran into somebody who I'd done a reading for her and her daughter, and she said, I had a reading with you some years back. And I said, oh, that's good. And she said, and you read for my daughter. And you told her that there was another gentleman, and I know what happened when I read for the daughter. She got two knights, two young men in her reading. And she was so sure that this one that she was with was the one, and we're in love. She told her mother, oh, she's nutty. I'm not, we're in love and we're going to stay together and all this. And okay, so that didn't happen, something. They broke up, and the other gentleman came along, and now she's happy with him, which is wonderful. So yeah, it does happen.
So aside from being confident, what makes a really good tarot reader?
well, to me, it's working with your guides and allowing, that's the way I feel the tarot works, is that everybody has guides, and that's what I tell people a lot of times before we even start their reading. And they'll look at me and go, I do? Well, what do they do? And so we have a short little talk about your guides and how important they are. And then my feeling is that their guides tell my guides things that they want them to know. And then the cards come up that allows me to be the facilitator to make that known to them. That's the way I feel the tarot works. So one of the things that's important to do when you're getting ready to go on your own path, if at all possible, get in communication with your spirit guides and know that they're there and that they will help you.
Is there a certain way in which you connect with your guides?
Well, I had a wonderful mediumship teacher years ago, and we got interested in mediumship. And the very first meeting that we had, we went into meditation, and he said, okay, now somebody's coming toward you, and that's one of your guides, and you meet them and talk with them and ask them questions and whatever. And that's what we did. And the first night we met one of our guides. It's not difficult. Again, it's having the desire to want to do it, and then having the confidence and the belief that that is what you have done. Don't doubt yourself.
Is there a point where you felt, I got it. I figured it out. I figured out how to read these babies. Or have you always been very, very comfortable and you just took to it like a duck?
I just pretty much felt comfortable with him. It felt pretty natural to me. It was something that came fairly easily. And like I say, I'm not saying I've never made mistakes or told somebody something that didn't happen or whatever. But it just came easily, and I always felt like I was on the right path.
I have a question. Check my cheat sheet here. Can you communicate with your deck?
Do I communicate with my what?
With your deck?
Well, not the way I would think. I mean, I don't talk to it or anything, but I feel very close to it, and I feel like it's part of me, that when I'm using it, I feel this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It gives me, and also it's very empowering, I feel, to be able to have a tool that works so well to be able to help other people, because people are wanting help and guidance, and they're very sincere for the most part. Sometimes we have, people just doing something as if, oh, this looks like fun, and then when we're done, they're like, oh, okay, well, thanks. But a lot of people really come with serious issues that they want to talk about. So I know I'm helping them.
Do you have a memorable reading that you've given to somebody, whether it was positive or negative, something that at the reading you were just, wow?
One of the most fun ones, every once in a while, somebody will bring a child or, a younger person. And to me, that's kind of always a challenge, because the cards are pretty much very adult, and some of the pictures and things. And children just don't have a lot of life experiences to relate to stuff. But anyway, so there was this young girl there. She was probably 11. I mean, she was about 11, 12. And her mother really wanted her to have this reading. So, okay. So we went through the procedure of her shuffling the cards and doing this. And then one of the first cards I laid down was a card that spoke of being in business. And I went, well, okay, now how are we going to relate this to this 11-year-old girl? So I said, well, this is a card of somebody that's a very good business person. And she kind of looked at me like, yeah, what are you going to tell me about that? You know? And I said, somebody up here, one of my guides, gave me a little hint, and I said, so the way I'm going to relate this to you is, I bet you sold the most Girl Scout cookies of anyone in your troop. And she went, Mom, did you tell her something? And that's always stuck with me as a kind of a cute little story, because she was, how did I know that? But so that was pretty memorable for me.
And she's probably have some kind of e-commerce thing and raking in $1,000, $2,000 a month.
Well, she was pretty surprised.
Let's see. What does it mean to be a master?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know. What do you mean by a master?
Well,
I don't consider myself a master. I don't know how you become a master.
similar as to martial arts, they have the different belts. Once, not that in tarot reading that there are different tests that we do to ascend to a master level, but I do feel like over time, once you gain that confidence, and even when you don't even need the cards, you're just kind of sense things. You kind of your intuition. That's kind of what I think it is. But what do you think a master is?
Well, I was watching a YouTube on meditation the other day, and whoever was doing the video was saying somebody had told him that it took 10,000 hours to become a master. And so this person, for some reason, divided that by 24 hours and came up with 416 days. And I'm like, well, it's going to be a lot longer than that, because you're not doing your task 24 hours a day for 416 days. So that was kind of surprising. 10,000 hours. I was drawn to the tarot cards because I was interested in how they could help me understand myself, first of all. And then as I've done this throughout the years, I've come to the realization that I'm really helping people by giving them options, giving them insight to questions that they may have, showing them different paths that they could take. And my goal is just to have everybody, when they leave, feel better about themselves and about their situation. So I don't know if that's mastery or not, but that's my goal.
Well, that's a good goal. That's a wonderful goal. So we're coming to the end of our interview. If somebody wants to have a reading with you, how do they find you?
Well, they can email me. My email is etparker 10, the number 10 at gmail.com.
Okay.
That would be the best. And I do things over the phone. I have done over the phone. And I'd love to. I haven't done a reading in a while with all the pandemic shutdown kind of things, but I wanted to say the way I attune to my deck when I pick a new deck. I think that was something that you'd asked about. I put it under my pillow and sleep with it for several nights. And I find that that kind of allows the cards to attune to my energy. And I don't feel like it's new, like I just take it out of the box. And I have a little bag that I keep them in. And when I get a new deck, I put them in this little bag and put it under my pillow and sleep for several nights with it. And then we're ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and put your email in the description. So if somebody wants to reach out to you for reading,
Okay, that would be awesome.
it's there for you or for them. And any final words as we
Well, I want to tell you that I did work with the pendulum a little bit this afternoon, and I asked about your job and it said you were going to get that job. So we'll wait to see what happens on that, but that would be wonderful.
Thank
This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
you. Thank you. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. Again, this is Ellen Parker, and her information is, will be in the description if you'd like to reach out to her for a reading. And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Stay there, though.
What?
Stay there. I'm gonna stop the recording.